So when you think of subsistence, usually you think fish and game and all the different things. But foraging, there was a photographer. His name was Jim Barker. He and some others wrote a book called Always Getting Ready. And that really is what happens here. We're always getting ready for something. And you have to, the whole season is filled with gathering of some sort. So we just finished fish, and we did some spruce tips, which is the first thing. And today we're going to go out and get some wild rhubarb that I found a huge patch here in Bethel. So let's go check it out. No, let's just go. I'm not going to imitate my friends from Hawaii, but let's go and check out what the tundra and the land has to offer this morning. Come on. Fireweed on the side of the road. That's the they say fall time starts when the flower gets to the top, but we'll be gathering fireweed here. They're not quite ready, and thinking about that, everything has such a short season, so it's very difficult to I should say it's very difficult, but you got to be on your toes, because last weekend we did spruce tips. They were almost over. Today we're getting wild rhubarb, which is almost over. But when your attention is focused on fishing, it takes everything. Your whole mental focus is on fish and how they are. So now that that's over, then their attention's heads to the tundra and to the land, and a short period of time before, each berry season is only maybe 3 weeks between each type of berry, and here we are at the bitter end of wild rhubarb. So we picked some earlier. I wanted to take you along and show you how it goes. Got all the tools we need. We got the bag. We got the dog. Otter, come here. Otter, come here. We have the dog and the know-how. So I should mention the know-how. Years ago, I was working with Akachuk Native community, and there was a gal, Mildred Evan, who sadly passed away suddenly. But she was awesome, and we were talking about picking and fishing and different stuff, and she mentioned this wild rhubarb, and how that when she was a kid, they would take a little bit of sugar, and they'd pick these and chew on them and dip the stalk into the sugar, and it was like a candy for them. And anyway, she shared with me her secret location, and I went over there, and unfortunately the beavers made a dam and flooded the whole place, and so there was none available at all. And for years I've been searching, and so Otter, come here. I was taking the dog for a walk, and I looked down, and there you go. there's the wild rhubarb. It looks like this here. And what you do is you harvest it by, see, these are getting a little old. They're starting to go to seed. So you find them that are, and I'll show you how this works here. So they have these little knuckles here, right here, and they'll just break off really easy at what I call a knuckle. So if you just break it off there, then you have this stalk here, and the leaves are made into akurak, and the stalks I'm gonna bring you along with me, and we're gonna gather some. Then we'll wash them and size them and dice them and get ready for jelly, which is what I make out of everything. Okay, so what we're looking for, so see these here, these with the big flowers on top. We're not interested on those. And what I noticed here, this is a sand pit, and so they're kind of like, here's a bunch of them. So they're a little dry in here because they need a little more water. They like to grow next to water, is where they really like to grow. But as you go in where there's grass and things like that, collects a little more water, they're greener, and that's really what you're looking for. So let's gather some here. If you can get your bag to hang right, then you can just throw some in there. Come on now. Okay, so we're gonna go down here and just grab this one at this knuckle. See, they come off really good. And as you move in a little bit, these just, you can reach down, find a knuckle, and just, I call it a knuckle. See, it's that little piece there. I used to pull them out, and then I realized that you don't have to pull them out. You want to just break them off, and then they come off clean. So as we go inside here where there's more grass, they look a little healthier, or they definitely have more water. And I don't go all the way down to the bottom, because that's a little stocky. Oh, look at these here. These are perfect. Oop. I'll kill myself falling around. Yeah, these are really nice. And they make a really fun, they have a really interesting flavor. We were talking about it last night, and ooh, it looks like we'd have moose in here. And it's kind of like a Jolly Rancher, to be honest with you. Let's see here. So if you got a little bit of a flower, that's fine. You see here, when you break it open, leave this in here. If I break this open, it's hollow on the inside. See there? And they would put sugar in here. And it actually, when it's, even without sugar, it's not bad. But yeah, you with sugar, it's amazing. And if you're a kid without candy, guess what you have? Candy! Oh my gosh, look at all these. There's a ton of them in here. And there's more water in here, and they look a lot healthier than out by the sand. And if you go in the morning, before the bugs are awake, yeah, there's been a moose in here. Or something. I'd venture to guess it's a moose that's been laying down here. And then you can see oh my goodness, there are so many fireweed. I'm not gonna, my friends, the bugs are in here even. There you go. Nice ones. So the rule of thumb for fireweed jelly is 9 cups of flowers to 6 cups, and then you boil that, or bring it to a boil, let it simmer 20 minutes, and put it into the refrigerator overnight. And the next day, strain it all out, and you can make jelly. And so I'm gonna go with a little more on these. I kind of ruined my first, to be honest with you, I kind of ruined my first batch of jelly because I got scared and it was runny, and I went, oh no, and I didn't let it sit long enough. And this batch of spruce tip jelly I just made was a perfect example of waiting, because when I took it out of the water bath, they were still runny, and I was like, oh man. And then I waited, next day they were perfect. And that's what I didn't do with, yeah, that's a really nice one, even though it's got some. So you just don't have to pull all the way down to the bottom. We go right there. So you take these leaves and de-leave them, and then you can make a gurak out of that, which is mixed with Crisco and sugar and pineapple and nuts and raisins, and you have, they call this gokchit. These are upriver gokchit because they have a different kind that's down river, which would be sourdough, but these still are outstanding. But they're everywhere. I think we're getting out of the patch here. This is a fun place to be. And the next thing that's coming are the fireweeds. So if you can see them here, like there's a little fireweed there. They'll be blooming like crazy. And this year we're doing tea and jelly. I'll show you how to make tea and jelly this year. They're so pretty, and so let me show. I'm not going to show you that. We'll show you that when it happens. It's gonna be it's weird. We haven't had that much rain. And so there's about a pound. So you could make several, probably 6 jars of jam with that. Okay, now we have them washed. Rinse them one more time. And then, next step, I was going to mention, this is why we have to get fruit locally. With the watermelon, you never can tell what you get, and for, I don't know what that costs. I spent $80 on one last year, same way. Bad on the inside. Anyway, fresh from the ground. These even look like rhubarb. So what I do now is oh no, they don't go there. I got a whole nother batch. I only went out to get 2 cups because and then I realized I hadn't taken a video of this. So then I decided to do this video, and so now I have lots, which is great because maybe we'll make syrup or all kinds of different things. Okay. So in here, there's our leaves that somebody wants for a good duck, and then these are leaves I didn't like, so they're not leaving. Something I was just thinking about is you don't have to be native or Alaska native I mean, there's subsistence. You can pass on, and I've always said this, you can pass on the traditions by learning them and passing them on. So, for example, when I learned how to cut fish, my wife was in school or having babies, and so she couldn't, and she hadn't learned as a young person. And so I learned and passed it to her, and then she's passing it on, but it comes from the same place. The elders, right, that learned these traditions long, long ago. And so I got this from Mildred, and then through this video pass it on to whoever's watching. They may not even consider that this could make jelly and agudok and different stuff like that, you know. So, and it may not be exactly, but participating in subsistence means dedicating yourself some time and some energy, and then money for gas and things, but time especially, and interest. I guess that's the really big one there. Getting young people to be interested in this, because you see it all the time, and I'm not saying anything bad about it, but you do see it a lot of times where people are learning their traditions when they're 40 or whatever, because they didn't take the time when they were younger. And if you ask them, they would be kicking themselves like, man, I wish I could have known. But, you know, young people have different priorities. So these little things, we'll cut all of them, and then we'll have bags of them. So that is a 2-pound bag there that's enough for 1 batch of jelly. And so it looks like I'm going to have probably 6 pounds of when I'm done here, which is pretty cool. All right, so we have 2 1/4 pound bags. Okay, there you go. I'm going to put them and freeze them, which will break them down a little bit. And then next stop is jelly. Wow, what a nice batch.